Check out flipsidegaming.com for all your gaming needs. Use the promo code HEROES to save 10% on all orders over $10 and support the channel at the same time. Hey there, it's John from Heroes and Legends, and welcome to day one. Yes, that's right, day one of official Ixalan previews. And you're probably thinking to yourself, wow, it doesn't feel like day one. We've seen a whole lot of the set, but officially this is the first day when it comes to Wizards giving us consistent previews over the course of the next 2 weeks. Now, much like today, every day that we have previews, we'll be making one of these videos to compile everything, give you some quick analysis, and keep you up to date as to what's going on, culminating in our full set review once everything has been reviewed a couple weeks from now. Quickly before we get started though, if you check out the description below, you'll find a couple ways to support us and keep us doing what we're doing. One of which is our Amazon links that you'll find down there. And once you go into Amazon via those links, a small percentage of anything you buy will come back to help support the channel. That really goes a long way. Secondly, you'll find our Patreon page linked below. And then finally, there's a link to Flipside Gaming. They provided a product code for our viewers for a discount, which is really awesome. With that being said, let's get into today's cards. We got some good ones to look at. We're going to start off with two cards we've already seen before, but this is the first time we're seeing them in their true Ixalan versions. Before we saw promo versions of the card. We have Walk the Plank and Unclaimed Territory. I have talked about these in previous videos, so I won't spend a whole lot of time here. If you'd like to hear my thoughts, check out the playlist. But I will say this, these are two very, very good uncommons, which you can probably see just by reading the text there. Also, too, that art for Walk the Plank that you have in the regular Ixalan set is super sweet as well. Alright, let's move on to the new stuff, beginning with Wakening Sun's Avatar. 3 white and 5. This is a mythic 7/7 dinosaur avatar. When this enters the battlefield, if you cast it from your hand, destroy all non-dinosaur creatures. Okay, so kind of like a Crux of Fate, sort of kind of, for dinosaurs, but that casting cost is pretty high at 3 white and 5. So let's look at this from a limited perspective first. In sealed, this card's a little awkward, and here's why. First off, aside from the casting cost, a sealed pool, if you have a god pool and you happen to open this, considering it's mythic, and you also happen to open a whole bunch of good dinosaurs, then, wow, you're probably lucky. But I don't know if that's going to happen all that often. Probably never, right? As far as draft goes, yes, you can orchestrate that a little better. You can draft a whole bunch of dinosaurs if the draft's going that way and dinosaurs appears to be open. And all of a sudden, if you do happen to get this card, it does feel a lot better. But you do have to remember that draft is going to move at a better clip than sealed even. And I think generally from what we've seen so far, the limited game feels like it's going to be relatively fast to mid-range. So I'd be a little bit concerned about trying to cast a 3 white and 5 in a draft game, honestly. You might not be alive that long. And then you also do have to consider color fixing potential. For example, if I'm in a 2-color deck, that's fine, but if I'm in dinosaurs, I could very well be in a 3-color deck. This becomes harder to cast unless I have ways to fix my mana, so I want to make sure I have that established. All of a sudden, it becomes really hard to think of a scenario where this is going to be great for you. So I'm going to say this. I don't think this is a great limited card due to that casting cost and the uncertainty of what your opponent's playing versus how many dinosaurs you're going to have in your pool and such. But there are decks that will run this and probably make it work occasionally. You just have to know your pool, know your deck, and if it can work out, then wonderful, it works out. But I think that's going to be the exception to the rule. Now, obviously, standard purposes, casting cost is just too high for standard or for those type of competitive formats. Commander, though, I think that's where this card really wants to live. If they give us enough pieces to make a good dinosaur commander deck, it feels like the pieces are starting to come into play slowly but surely, then yes, you're going to play this in a dinosaur commander deck and you're going to be really happy to run it and it's going to be good there. I think that's really the idea behind this card. Alright, the next card comes to us from a Portuguese language preview, and it is loosely translated, Deadeye Quartermaster, a blue and 3 human pirate 2/2. When this enters the battlefield, you may search your library for an equipment or a vehicle card and put it into your hand. If you do, shuffle. It's an uncommon, and I think it's fine. Here's my issue with it first. Don't like paying 4 for 2/2. And I just don't know if my sealed or my draft pool is going to have a vehicle and or equipment card that I cared that much about. We haven't seen anything that's been truly amazing yet in the set, but of course we got a long ways to go. And if that's the case, if there's some cards in here that feel like strong cards for draft or sealed, maybe even win conditions, then this becomes, sure, super playable if you have 1 or 2 of those type of cards in your deck. If you do not, if you just have kind of your run-of-the-mill simple equipment. I don't really think this is worth running for 4 mana and having a 2/2 body on the board. I mean, it's nice to be able to go into your deck and grab another card regardless of what it is sometimes, and tutors can be powerful because they can be somewhat situational depending on what's going on in board state. But I don't know, I just haven't seen any vehicles or equipment yet that makes me excited about this card. I guess maybe once we get to the set review, I'll have a better idea as to how I feel about it. But to summarize, I think in sealed or draft, if you have good targets for it, then play it. If you don't, skip it. You don't want a 2/2 for 4. As far as standard goes, I mean, we've seen great Mardu vehicles decks in the past. Would a deck like that want to splash some blue to get this tutor? I honestly don't know if they need that, and if that would slow down their game plan a little too much, because those decks tend to run very aggro, and at least recent incarnations of them have even cut down on the vehicles a little bit just to go more aggro. So I don't know if this is something they want to perhaps gum up their mana base with a little bit. I just don't think it's worth it for what the payout could be, quite honestly. So I don't see this, at least at this point, unless we see more things from the set that could change my opinion. At least at this point, I don't really see this doing a whole lot in standard, but it is still a tad early, I think, to make that statement. Now, I will say this, though. Commander, this is very runnable because you can pull some great equipment and some great vehicles out of your deck. Tutors are always phenomenal in Commander. This one is very reasonably priced, and you can get some cheap piece of really good equipment from the early days of Meriden or something like that, and you can put it out fast, and it could do work for you, right? Real simple, real easy, and it'll be great there. All right, the next card is a reprint, but a lot of red players are going to be excited about this one. Lightning Strike is back. This costs a red and 1. It's an instant, and it deals 3 damage to target creature or player. So just in time for Incendiary Flow to leave the format, Lightning Strike is coming in. It's going to be good in Ramanap Red. Nice upgrade, actually, even though it doesn't have that whole exile tag Incendiary Flow did. This card is an instant. That was a sorcery. That makes me really happy if I want to play Ramanap Red anyway. So yeah, this card is going to be awesome. In Limited, it's a bomb too. I mean, it's first pickable in a lot of packs. You're going to be really happy if you open it, and it's going to be awesome and sealed for you. We know what this card does. This is going to be a format staple in Standard for as long as it's in the format. It has been in the past. It will be again. It's just an amazing card, and I love the art. I love the flavor text. They did an awesome job with this printing of it. Next is Shapers of Nature. This is a blue-green 1 Merfolk Shaman 3/3. It costs a green and 3 to put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. A blue and 2, remove a +1/+1 counter from a creature you control, draw a card. Alright, so first off, let's talk about Limited, because this card is awesome. Alright, first, 3 casting costs. Now granted, 2 different colors, but you get a 3/3 and an incredible mana sink that can buff your stuff and also take those counters off later to draw cards. Really, really sweet mana sink to get you past some board stalls. I really like this card a lot. I'm usually not big into first picking gold cards just right off the bat necessarily. I don't want to commit too much to a color combination or something like that. But every once in a while in draft, I might open a pack 1, where I do get a dual color card that is extremely good, and I consider it. This definitely would make me consider it, and could be first pickable in some packs for sure. Definitely a high pick though regardless, and it has the Merfolk synergy too, which we haven't completely seen how that's going to come into play for sealed or for draft, but it could be important as well beyond just the fact that this is simply a good card. Great limited bomb. Aside from that, constructed, well, I'm still not sold on a lot of these green-blue Merfolk making their way into like modern or legacy Merfolk decks. Those decks are just too tight right now, and I can't think of what I'd want to take out and why I'd really want to dilute my mana pool to play something like that. I don't see that as being realistic. Standard, maybe. We just haven't seen enough yet, but if there is some sort of Simic deck in Standard, it doesn't necessarily even have to be a Merfolk deck. You could see some copies of this perhaps in there, but definitely if there's Merfolk synergies, this will become much more standard playable if that's the case. So I'll wait and see before I pass judgment there, but definitely great for limited. As for Commander, I think it's a good card there too. I mean, sure, you have Zamek Guildmage, which does something similar, a little more cost effective, but at the same time, this could be a redundancy in those decks that want to do something like that, or maybe the Merfolk Tribal will matter to you in certain decks. And if that's the case, this becomes highly playable there. So yes, this is another fantastic card. Really excited about this one, actually. Alright, this next card is a transform card. It was previewed by LSV on Channel Fireball today, but it is Primal Amulet. It costs 4. It's a rare artifact. Instant and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, put a charge counter on this. Then, if there are 4 or more charge counters on it, you may remove those counters and transform. Becomes Primal Wellspring. It's a land. Tap. Add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. When that mana is spent to cast an instant or sorcery spell, copy that spell, and you may choose new targets for the copy. Alright, let's talk about limited first. I don't think this is going to be that great in most pools for draft or sealed, simply because those tend to be creature-heavy formats. And a lot of times you're running 14, 16 creatures is pretty typical. So if you don't have enough instants or sorceries to actually make this matter, then it's kind of a dead card that kind of sits there most of the time, and you're taking turn 4 or 5 off to play it. That doesn't feel super great to me. Now, we haven't seen the whole set yet. Maybe Izzet Colors will have an extra push of instants and sorceries, making this worth your while. And if you happen to draft that deck or you happen to get a great pool, then maybe it's playable in 1% of the decks out there, but I think most of the time we're going to skip this one. This is really more of a standard constructed card for me. I feel like this is great in control decks, and a good point LSV made in the short article about this card today is this isn't really a Storm Enabler. I mean, there's other cards that are going to do that better for like Modern Legacy, right? But this is really a way to make control decks more potent, and that's exactly what this does. By making your instants and sorceries 1 less to cast, it just gives you that advantage through the rest of the game as long as this can stay on the battlefield. I mean, your removal spells, your counter spells, your direct damage, all 1 cheaper. That really adds up over time, and even in multiples works in this case. So here's the thing to think about. Yes, you are still paying 4 for this, and it's not really doing anything, at least immediately, unless you have a follow-up play. But I think that's okay. I think control decks can deal with that. I mean, they're going to have some issues out there with like that huge 7/6 hexproof can't be counter creature we saw a few days ago. So how viable are control decks going to be in the format? I guess that remains to be seen as we go forward. But if they can hang in the format, then I think this is going to be a big part of those decks, because the advantage they're getting after that is good enough, and they can catch up maybe with a removal spell or something like that. So overall, I think it's a really cool card. We'll have to wait and see where the meta goes to see how playable it is, because it's all hinging on how good control decks are going to be in the meta at any given point. But if at any given point that this thing's around, that they can hang, then yeah, I think it's the standard play. That's really what this card feels like it's made for. This is a fine commander card too, and like I said, a lot of instants and sorcery spells in that format as well, so it just gives you that economy. And those games, because they are multiplayer, will be a little more forgiving if you take a turn off to play this. Alright, having said that, those are the cards for today, and we'll be back tomorrow with another video recapping everything that happens over the next 24 hours. So we'll keep you up to date as all these cards are previewed. We'll compile them for you and hopefully keep everything straight as we move towards the full set review in a couple weeks. So until then, hey, thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and have a great day. Hey, thanks for watching. This video is made possible by the generous support of viewers like you on Patreon. Check out the description below for links to our Patreon page as well as our Amazon affiliate store, where a small percentage of all sales will also help support the channel. Finally, if you haven't had a chance yet to subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any new videos on Heroes and Legends. Talk to you again soon, and have a great day.